Give me a sec when it starts to stop the audio from the actual YouTube. All right, Salam alaikum. Here we are again with Sarah Qureshi at Daybreak Live.
Sorry, Samir.
Salam alaikum. Sorry?
No, I was just saying Sarah Samir is my last name.
Sarah Samir. Oh, that's right. Your mom is Sana Qureshi. Yes, yes. Oh, apologies. Sarah Samir. And Sarah is our young adult correspondent. She has a book club in her hometown in Chicago. And she began this book club and she meets with her friends monthly. And sometimes the books that they read in the book club and sometimes books that she has just read on her own, she'll bring to us to recommend or discuss on Daybreak Live. Sarah is in the 6th grade now, right?
Yes.
Sarah's in 6th grade. She was born in Chicago and she's the oldest of 3 siblings. She enjoys reading and watching interior design shows, but her greatest passion is graphic design. This woman is already like practically a professional designer. She designs all of her mom's business flyers, and her love for reading and the need to connect with other Muslim girls are what inspired her to start the book club for tweens. And those tweens are very quickly approaching teenhood. So soon you'll have a book club for teens. We're so happy to have you, Sarah. How has the first week of school been? We heard that you just began middle school.
Alhamdulillah, yes, it has been great. And I'm really happy.
You're in a new school and in a totally new area, right? So it's a different middle school than you would have gone to if you were in your old neighborhood. Nice, nice. I talked to your mom a little bit and she said that the first week went so much smoother than than it could have. So what a blessing to just kind of slip right in there with all the other, everybody's new in middle school. All right, so today, Sarah, can you drop on us what book we are discussing for Daybreak Live Young Adult?
Sophia's Journal, my all-time favorite book. Bye.
Oh my goodness, she strokes my ego. She said her all-time favorite. Good, that is favorite book. It's so amazing. Yay, Sophia's Journal. I'm so glad to know that people are still reading and liking Sophia's Journal.
Yes. And I thought it would be really cool to have an author reader perspective.
Beauty. All right, let's do it.
Okay. This is a question you probably get a lot, but I just want to know, what was your inspiration for the book and why did you write the book?
Oh, this is interesting because the answer to those 2 questions is a different answer. So the inspiration was, I've always loved time travel idea, like stories with time travel. And I've always loved the Little House on the Prairie kind of point in history, like that kind of mid 1800s kind of, like when Kansas was being settled by colonizers. Let's say it straight out. But that period in history always fascinated me. Of course, when I was growing up, there wasn't as much awareness, or there wasn't as much acknowledgement and guilt about what that meant, at least not for me when I was a kid growing up. Like all I saw were, oh, these are the settlers. This is Laura Ingalls, and she's coming in with her family, and they're settling in this place, and they're planting their crops, and they're whatever, taking the sleigh ride to go see their grandma, and all that good stuff. And then in my mind, separately, there was, oh, and there were also Native Americans at that time. There were also First Nations people. I didn't really absorb fully on a heart level what was happening, that there was genocide and pushing people out and stealing land going on in order for Laura Ingalls and her family and the other settlers to be able to come in. So the inspiration for Sophia's journal was time travel mostly. One time I was driving to my mom's house, which is about a 4-hour drive, and I saw a really, really tall tree. If you've ever been in the prairie, you know that it's mostly flat.
Mhm.
And there aren't just like random trees. Like if you're in Michigan or you're in Illinois or you're in like Vermont or somewhere, there's trees that are naturally there. In Kansas, there aren't natural trees. The only time there are trees is like along a riverbed or something like that. And so that's part of what allowed the night in the Dust Bowl to happen in the 30s. Was there was no break. The wind would just come along, and all of that, there was a drought, so all of that soil was dry, and it just picked it all up and flew it into the air and stripped the earth of that top layer of soil. So after the Dust Bowl, the government set about planting trees in rows. So like on the edges of fields, you see like one big field of wheat, and along the edges, there are trees planted specifically to serve as windbreaks. So in Kansas, when you see trees, it's usually like a row of trees and they're all the same age and they're all the same height. Okay, so that's why I'm telling you that whole story, because when you see trees, they're usually all the same. One time I was driving and I saw a tree that was, you know, like here's a windbreak, tree. And then this tree right here was really tall, and then there was other ones. I thought, what if you climbed up to the top of that tree, and when you came down, you were in a different time period? So that's when I started thinking about Sophia's journal. And as you know, it didn't wind up being a tree. That was her catalyst, but that. And so at the same time, I was teaching an American history class to high school students. And when we got to the parts about the run up to the Civil War, when we talked about slavery, when we talked about the Indian removal that happened under Andrew Jackson, the kids just didn't relate to it with their hearts. They were like, oh yeah, you know, that was really awful. What time is lunch? Their hearts just weren't in it. They didn't feel that oppression. They feel how bad that was. So that's the reason that I wrote it, was to speak to young people in an emotional way, in a story where they could actually get to know people who were experiencing that oppression and realize how unfair it was and how immoral it was.
Yeah. What I really liked about it was that I love historical fiction, and then I also love realistic fiction, because realistic fiction is like relatable to me, and historical fiction I'm reading like for the information, for what
Oh yeah.
you kind of like merge those together. So I felt like it was so cool that you were able to make like a point about that point in history, and then you were also able to make it relatable for young readers, to relate to a 21st century Muslim girl.
Well, I have my kids to thank for that, because I used them as the template for the characters who were the 21st century.
You used, I know at the beginning of the book, I saw in the acknowledgements your kids' names, and then I saw in the story there were. So
yes, I used all my kids' names somewhere in, there's a character somewhere in the book with all my kids' names.
That's what I wanted to ask, actually. How do you come up with your names? Because I feel like when I'm writing a story, I struggle to find a name that like represents my character well.
Oh my gosh. You're the only other writer I have ever heard talk about this, but I experienced it so strongly. I had so much difficulty, not just with Sophia's journal. Every time I write, I have so much struggle coming up with a name that is appropriate for the character. It has to reflect the culture that they're from. And that could be like divided by not just the broader culture, like for example, this is an Arab person, but by specific cultures. For example, one time I wrote a story about a man in Iraq and his wife. And his wife, I can't remember what I had named her, but at the time I was teaching English in Syria, and I had one of my students who was from Iraq read it, and he told me, we don't really use that name in Iraq for ladies. Like, we just don't use that name. I mean, like, Syria and Iraq are right next door to each other, but there are such specific cultural things that, you know, which goes to speak to the importance of beta readers, people to read your story before you kind of finish it up. Because there were other things that he corrected for me that were in the story that I based on Syrian culture. But yeah, I had to change her name because he's like, in Iraq, they don't use that name. But even short of that, yeah, I struggle as well. Sometimes I rename characters halfway through.
Yeah, wait, so is Sophia Arabian, or did you just like, is Sophia Arab, or did you want to kind of leave her ethnicity? Like, does she have an ethnicity?
Yes, her dad is Arab, and her dad is Syrian, and her mom is American.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
I guess I don't remember because I was.
Yeah, I think somewhere in the first chapter I dropped it somehow. I don't remember.
Because I heard her mention Arabic pita bread, but then I was like, I'm not even Arab, and I like eat pita bread sometimes.
Yeah.
What was your like favorite or most difficult chapter to write?
My favorite, sorry?
Or is there a part of the book, a scene of the book?
So my favorite part to write was the part where was the two parts of conflict. So the part where Sophia and another character go at it and kind of confront one another, and the part where the girls save the day at the end. So the two parts that involved conflict, those were the most fun.
Okay.
The most difficult was the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
That poor book had like 8 different beginnings.
Okay. Do you feel like you identify with your character, or do you feel like she's the opposite, or do you feel like somewhere in the middle?
You know, they say that your first novel is the most autobiographic. And I would say that that was true for me to a large extent. I was also very anxiety ridden as a young person. Had a lot of anxiety, had a lot of irrational fear and just different things to struggle with. But unlike Sophia finds a way to, she's put into a situation where she has to rely on Allah and she has to rely on herself, and she meets that standard, she meets that challenge. So her anxiety kind of takes a back seat because she's so busy dealing with the things she has to deal with. That was different than me. For me, I suffered with that well into my young adulthood. But yeah, I also believe that her other faults, she has other faults, but they're more subtle. She has other personality quirks, but they're more subtle. And so I borrowed from lots of different places for that. I just kind of like made her an amalgamation.
Okay, that's cool, because I feel like I don't see in many books characters having like 21st century characters, you know, having fear other than like tests and friendship and like I can't really say the genre because your book falls into kind of multiple different genres, I guess, but I felt like that was something new and I thought it was cool because I don't see that very often in many books. Like, and I also learned about a lot of new kinds of diseases out there. Is there a chance of a sequel coming out?
Oh, Sarah. I just can't say. I have thought about it. I have intended it. I have researched it. Then I changed my mind about when it should be set. And now I have a different idea that I'm pursuing than the one I originally had. So, but that's going to require some research too. So I'm doing, are you ready for this? I'm doing NaNoWriMo this year. I'm going to participate in NaNoWriMo, which is National Novel Writing Month. It's every November, and it's an international campaign where everybody who wants to, who is working on a book gets together and says, okay, I'm dedicated to finishing my book this November. So I'm going to be focusing on the sequel in NaNoWriMo, but that doesn't mean it's going to be coming out like in the next 6 months or anything. Because it'll take a while to get it there anyway, but I found a really awesome place to set it, and I'm much, much more excited about this setting than I was about the one that I had originally planned. So
nice. That sounds really exciting. So how many books have you written?
Only Sophia's journal, and then I co-authored a book called Project Lena, Bringing Our Whole Selves to Islam. And I wrote that with Dr. Ansay Tamra-Gray, and it is a book for converts, a handbook for knowing yourself, declaring your independence by studying Islam enough that you can't be told, oh, this is haram, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong. You have to do this, you can't do that. And tending your ties, keeping your ties with your family and friends of origin, and your new Muslim family as well. So it's a book divided into 3 parts, and those are the parts: know yourself, declare your independence, and tend your ties. And there's a workshop, a 2-day workshop that goes along with it. So people can either just get the book, or they can have the workshop presented at their masjid, or they can join an online workshop and use the book with that.
One thing I wanted to mention, because I love it about your book, is the way that Islam is portrayed. It's such a big part of the book. It's not like Islam is kind of a side thing. You definitely make sure to make it a point that she does her wudu, and she prays, and she shares her religion with her with the Samsons. And I mean, the ending was just extraordinary. I don't want to spoil it for anyone because it was so good. Like, that was probably the best ending of a book I've ever read.
Oh my goodness.
It was so good. But yeah, and then she talks about, the similarities between Christianity and Islam, and I feel like if a non-Muslim was reading this, they'd really get to know Islam, and they'd get to know it how it is. And you just portrayed it as such a beautiful religion, and I hope that Muslims and non-Muslims read your book, because I think it's
thank you,
necessary
Sarah.
for all readers.
You have made my whole year. Bless your heart. Thank you so much. Have you written any short stories or anything? Do you have anything that we might be able to find online somewhere?
No, I obviously write stuff for school, and I have stories and stuff, but I enjoy writing, and I've written like informational text and fictional text for school mostly. I do sometimes write if an idea pops into my head, but usually I haven't published a piece or anything.
Do you do any poetry writing?
Oh yes, I've written poems before. There was a talent show at the masjid. I submitted a poem for that. and there was also a talent show at my school, and I did another poem for that. So I do enjoy
Nice.
poetry a lot.
There, I can't remember the name of it, but there's a poetry website where, like everybody just goes and, people can publish their poems there. Oh my gosh. Is it poetry.org or is it might be, there's one Poetry Foundation. That's a good one, but I don't know if that one is, like one you can submit poems to, or if it's just, you look at, historical poems all through the years and all through the places. But that's a good poetry place. Yeah, so I've had several short stories published in different anthologies and stuff like that. I think that's a great place to start, is poetry and short stories, and getting those published in different places, because there are so many places that accept submissions. You can just, all you have to do is email. You don't even have to put them in an envelope anymore. So next time you write one that you really think, you've really polished, send it out. There's no reason why it couldn't get published.
Okay, thank you. Are you friends with any other authors? And like, do you meet up with them? Do they help you write your books, or do you just know people within Rabata, or people or authors outside of Rabata?
So when I wrote Sophia's journal, I had a writing partner, Allah yarhama. She has passed away now. Her name was Jamila Kolokotronis, and she had already had a couple of books published. One was about a family in the aftermath of 9/11, and another one it's called the Echoes series. It's a 5-book series. It's a family saga that begins with a man who converts to Islam, a young man. And so she was my writing partner, and we got together once a week and worked on both of our, we were both writing at the time, and we worked on our stuff and kind of bounced our ideas off of one another. There was a lot of, okay, I've got her into this situation. I'm not sure how to get her out. Like, I've kind of written myself into a corner, how do I get her out of this, or something like that. And then now we have 2 groups. One is called Daybreak Writers Circle. So that's a thread on WhatsApp. Then we have a group called Writers at Work, which is also a thread, but we have meetings twice a month. So we meet and we do writing exercises, and we talk about what we're writing, and we read one another's writing, and we kind of critique and offer ideas. And so I don't really have a specific friend that I write with now, but alhamdulillah, we have that kind of group support.
That's really nice.
And if you or anybody else out there would like to join, please just reach out to najiyah@rabata.org and we'll get you on there.
All right, thank you. Do you have any advice for authors or anyone who's just writing, and or do you have any advice for your younger self that was still like writing?
Okay, so the first thing that comes to mind is, don't be afraid of a stormy first draft. First draft is just a suggestion. The first draft is you telling yourself what you want the story to be about. It doesn't have to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty. Just face it. It's not going to be pretty. If you try to make it pretty, you'll never get it done, because you'll always be going back and prettifying it, beautifying it. So yeah, first draft, don't be scared of it. It's gonna be stormy. Embrace that. It's fine. Let it be stormy. That's what it's for. That's its job. Its job is to be stormy and crazy and, not up to snuff. Then it's that you go back and you write the second draft, and then you do the editing, and then that's my first advice. Yeah. So don't be afraid of that. Just start writing. My second piece of advice is, writing isn't linear. It's not something where you sit down and you go, once upon a time, begin beginning, middle, and then the end. And that's how you write the story. Writing is much more, you write like the skeleton of the story in your first draft, and then you go back and you add things, take things away, you move things around, you scratch something out, you replace it with something else. So don't feel like if you're not writing from beginning to end, you're not doing it right. Because it's not like, for example, when I wrote Sophia's journal, in the first scene where Sophia wakes up in 1857, she wakes up and she's in their Saudi, their house, and she's laying on this like straw mattress, and she's looking at the wallpaper, which was newspapers, on the wall. And when Abby comes in and brings her mom and her brother in, there's a dog.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote that scene, and then I wrote the whole rest of the first draft, and I never mentioned the dog again. So actually, it was a young reader, one of my students who was reading my my manuscript like as a beta reader, she went, "What happened to the dog?" And I was like, oh my gosh. So to go back and write the dog into different scenes. So every time that you read in Sophia's journal, oh, Sadie, I think that her name was Sadie. Sadie did this, Sadie did that, Sadie blah, blah, blah. None of that was in the first draft. I had to go back and write that in. So don't worry, you can always fix things. It doesn't have to be just straight from beginning to end.
So did you ever feel like after you published the book, did you ever feel like, oh, like if you read part of your book, do you feel like, oh, I could have made that edit, or I could have made that edit? Or do you feel like you thoroughly edited the book before publishing?
Oh, Zara, you touched a nerve. I felt, first of all, after it was published, I never went back and read it. Not after it was published in its final form, because I didn't want to see, I knew there were typos, there have to be. It's like, there just are. Very often, you'll find in books that are even books published by Simon & Schuster and all those guys, you find things. But what we did was we accepted corrections. Like anybody could email me, like a lot of people from Rabata, like they would read it and they would say, oh, I found this mistake on page 37. They would send that and we saved it. So we fixed them in the next printing. So that's one thing. The other thing is, the book was originally published by a different publisher earlier than the version you have. And in that version, the ending where Sophia wakes up after she's been in the hospital, that ending was a little different. I changed how the timing worked for the end when we did the second printing, when we did the second publishing. So yeah. And then once we did that second publishing, I have not ever read it since. Because I know that I'll see things and I'll just cry.
You own the book?
Yeah, I do. Actually, right now, I think I only have one copy. Yeah.
Okay. I think it's really good, and I can't imagine like anything being different in
it. Well, thank you. That means I succeeded in making Sophia a real person to you. Like you felt that real kinship with her, and you felt as if she were real.
Okay, this is just a question that I just want to ask. Do you like Harry Potter? Do you read it? Do you like it?
I love Harry Potter. I'm so much about Harry Potter. So much about Harry Potter. Actually, we just watched a couple of weeks ago. They had a marathon on the movies, so we sat like all weekend and watched the movies. My favorite is, what's your favorite?
I like Sorcerer's Stone, and Prisoner of Azkaban is also good.
I find that's my favorite.
But I don't like how they show Sirius Black in the movies.
Yes, I can relate to that.
Do you like the movies more or the books?
Oh, the books. Oh, come on. Yeah. Of course, the books. Of course, the books, but I think they did a pretty good job of remaining faithful to the books to the extent that they could in the, with the resources and time that they had.
They
Like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh no, they're making a TV show, I'm pretty sure, that's supposed to be more accurate.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's
And
great. I hadn't heard that.
be like a season for each there's gonna be like a season for each book, I think.
Oh, I can't wait to tell everybody. I can't wait to tell everybody I know about that. Who's your favorite character?
Um well, in the movies I like Draco Malfoy.
Uh-huh.
Um
As
and then
did Emma, what's her name?
Emma Watson
Emma
acted
Watson,
Hermione
yeah.
Granger, and Tom Felton acted Draco Malfoy. I think those are everyone's favorites in the movies. And then in the books, I like Hermione and I like Hagrid too.
Okay, so my very favorite is Professor McGonagall.
Professor McGonagall is nice. I
And then
like
I love also Mad Eye Moody.
I like her in the 5th book against Umbridge.
Oh yeah. So classic. Wasn't it just like this feeling of
Yeah, yeah. Yes. What last question about your Harry Potter, you and Harry Potter. Um which house are you in? Do you know? Do you
you know,
have you taken the quiz?
remember I took the quiz, but I don't remember. I think it was Gryffindor, and I think I was kind of like, oh, well, like I sort of wanted to be unique and be in, in a different house. But yeah, I think it was Gryffindor. I think Gryffindor is a lot of people that have my personality type, ENFP in the Myers-Briggs, which is just a personality thing. I think a lot of people who have my same personality type are in Gryffindor. What about you?
I'm in Ravenclaw.
Oh, nice. What are your Ravenclaw characteristics?
I think I'm like intelligent and witty.
Yes, you fit right in over there.
That's what the
Which
quiz told me at least.
which character did you hate the most?
Umbridge, obviously. Everyone hates Umbridge. Everyone wants Umbridge dead more than Voldemort.
She deserves it. I hated Rita Skeeter.
Oh, Rita Skeeter was also annoying.
Yeah, she was so like selfish and all about herself. Ugh.
Yeah. A girl in my school once dressed up as Rita Skeeter.
Oh, did she?
And yeah, she was okay.
Did she have like a floating
No, it was kind
pad
of
with a
it was
quill?
kind of a lame outfit. I mean, it was a green, I think it was not necessarily a costume. I think it was just like what she had at home with like
Oh yeah.
the hair, I think. But yeah.
What's the best thing you learned from Harry Potter?
Uh hmm. I learned a lot of lessons. Like words are, in Dumbledore's not so humble opinion, our most inexhaustible source of magic.
Nice. I loved the continued reinforcement that perseverance is more important than talent, and that you don't have to be perfect to do the right thing. Like you can be a hero and be an imperfect person,
Yeah.
which obviously all heroes are because everybody's imperfect, but there's often this idea that, oh, you're either a hero or you're not. You're either a hero or a rotten apple. But yeah, you can be a hero. I was so glad that none of the characters, the trio, were perfect. Each of them had real tangible flaws, and they stayed with them and they grew through them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Definitely. You can see. Um, definitely. So
Oh, sorry.
sorry, wait. Okay. Yeah, sorry. Um, so what was your favorite like book series growing up?
Okay, so I grew up before there really was a book series craze. I mean, there were some books that were series, but most
Or
of
was
the
there
books that I read were just standalone.
was
There was, sorry.
was there an author or a book that you just liked alone?
Okay, so of course the Laura Ingalls Wilder series, the Little House on the Prairie series, that was the one series that I really was interested in. And then Beverly Cleary was the first author that really inspired me to want to become a writer. She wrote like books for tweens kind of um, as an audience. And then she also wrote books for teens as an audience. So you could start reading Beverly Cleary when you were younger and then kind of graduate to her older books. And of course, Judy Blume. Judy Blume was like the premier author of my generation. So yeah, so those are the three that I remember.
Okay. I have not obviously read any of those, but
They're worth it. They're worth reading, especially like Judy Blume has a book called Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret.
oh yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, I think they're going to make a movie or a
They already
series
made
or
a
something
movie, I'm
about it.
pretty sure.
Oh, did
Yeah.
they? Yeah. I mean, it's not 100% Islamic values, but obviously she was writing from a different point of view. Lots of like How to Eat Fried Worms, Nate the Great. There are all kinds of different I guess there were some series. There was the Ramona. Beverly Cleary had Ramona and her sister. They had a character named Ramona. So if you look at Ramona, those are probably for younger kids, but Janine, I think, is the book that I read that really like I sat down right after I read that. It's a Beverly Cleary book, and I just sat down right after that and started writing my own novel.
Oh
So,
wow.
which I never finished, but what about you? Who's your favorite author and series?
Probably Harry Potter
Okay,
and
besides Harry Potter.
Sophia's Journal.
Oh,
And there's this book called Other Words for Home. It's an award-winning book by Jasmine.
I've read that one.
It's really good. And I think we had an interview on this as well.
Yeah, we
Um,
did. Say again her name because I talked over you. What's the author's name?
Jasmine Warga. And I'm reading another one of her books, Shape of Thunder. I just started it, but so far it's been really good. And I think she also came out with another book, A Rover Story, which I haven't read, but I think it's about a rover going to Mars.
Oh, nice.
So sort of different genres, but she writes, I think Other Words for Home is in verse, but Shape of Thunder isn't, but she's just such a talented writer, like
Yeah.
metaphors and everything. She's just so amazing.
Have you heard of Call Me Adnan?
No.
Okay, so I think I actually have it here. Do I have it? Oh, I put it away already. There's a book called Call Me Adnan. It's by Reem Farouqi. And
Oh,
yeah, it's a novel written in verse.
she
I
wrote Golden
enjoyed it a
Girl, right?
lot.
Another
Sorry?
another Reem Farouki. She wrote Golden Girl. Is it the same author?
I think it is, yes. And she wrote Layla's Lunchbox and all of
Yeah,
those.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I like her books.
yeah. You'll love Call Me Adnan. It's really nice.
Okay. I'll add that to my list.
What else you got?
I think that's it. I think that's like everything I wanted to know about Sophia's journal and you.
Oh my gosh, you should give lessons on interviewing. This was an awesome interview. What do you have for us next month? Oh
Next
yeah, we
month,
talked about it. It was with your friend, your cousin Zahra.
yes,
And what's the book?
Barca Beats.
By?
We will most likely be having a special guest with us.
Yay! And who is Baraka Beats by?
It is by, sorry, I'm running a blank.
I think it's Henna Khan. Is it Henna Khan?
Oh no, it's not Hannah Khan.
Oh, okay.
It's right up there. Siddiqui something Siddiqui. Oh, Maliha Siddiqui, yes.
Ah, okay.
It's my birthday.
Beautiful.
So I'm
All
excited
right.
to just next month.
So we usually meet on the last Thursday of the month, right? And we got, okay. So we will see you on the last Thursday of September,
Inshallah.
inshallah, with our special guest, when we will talk about baraka beats. All right. Thank you, Sarah. Have a great week.
You too. Assalamualaikum.
Appreciate it. Assalamu alaikum. And we will, by the way, for everybody else watching, we will be back not the last Thursday, but the second to last Thursday of next month in September. We will be visiting once again with Najiyah Maxfield, who comes once a month to talk to us about all things authoring and running an author business. She'll be here to talk to us. And don't forget that if you're publishing a book this year, the Daybreak Press Book Awards, submissions are closed for this year, but the new submissions come open for the 2024 season in January. January 1st, 2024, we'll begin accepting submissions for the 2024 Daybreak Press Book Awards. All right, so we'll see you guys all next time. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Sarah. Did it stop?
No, not yet.